Evening and welcome to WoW Flash. This is my weekly look at the news from Warcraft or the world of Warcraft from the past 7 days. So this week is all about, well, the second week of patch 7.2 where we had some more content coming in. There's also been quite a lot of changes. They've been fiddling with all sorts of things, especially to do with resources. The latest of which seems to be reducing players to a cap of 1,000 war supplies. The reason being, it's not an unreasonable reason for this, it's because people were hoarding them. I suppose while, let's say, the Mage Tower was up, I mean, that's the first one people went for, which meant your war supplies, you had to use it on another building. So what people were probably doing is waiting for the Mage Tower to be destroyed the last 3 days. It's gone now. And then putting them all back into that again to get that back up. Now, it's perfectly reasonable, as Blizzard say, because they say it's all right. A few people doing it, but if it became widespread, then basically you'd end up with a situation where it would disrupt the flow of buildings coming up, and it would quite severely disrupt the ability of the other buildings to come up as well. They've also put a hotfix in related to the brainless invasions, because these invasions, which can happen in various places, were appearing at silly hours. In fact, I knew the invasions were being released this week. I had no idea where or when they were. I didn't see them because, I mean, I've not had that much time this week. Been very busy work, and then when I've not been working, I seem to have been raiding. So actually not very much time to play the game in any other sense. But yeah, they were turning up at like when people are asleep, or normal sleeping hours, shall we say. Bit silly, really. Now, what they've done is I'll read out exactly what they've said. They've talked about the idea. It's clear to us that the cyclical assault schedule and the design of the do all for achievement for Pathfinder weren't compatible. They've described that world quests come and go all the time during the day too, while people are at work or asleep, and it's not a big deal because they're largely interchangeable. But that would change if we had an achievement required for Pathfinder that asked you to do a specific checklist of world quests. Sure. So a lot of the stress and concern about missing individual assaults is tied to this achievement. So we're removing the achievement from Pathfinder. So as far as I know, that's gone now. I've not actually been able to check. I assume it's gone. It's not a difficult thing to hotfix. So basically, all you're going to need for the Pathfinder Part 2 is Revered with Armies of Legionfall. That's still going to be needed. And fully explore the Broken Shore, and that should be done. So then if you've done that and you've got your Pathfinder Part 1, then you've got flying. So some people have flying now. Great. Reminds me I ought to get onto that now. Now that I'm off for a couple of weeks, not quite a couple of weeks, sort of a couple of weeks, I've got time to do a bit of that, I hope. BlizzCon tickets have now properly gone on sale. So the first lot went up a couple of days ago. The next lot are coming up on Saturday the 8th. That's tomorrow as I'm doing this at the moment. I will, of course, just be getting the virtual ticket. I am just coming back to 7.2, a little bit disappointed with one thing. So in this second week, we've finally got to see how much artifact power we're getting from mythic caches. Maybe some people, I think some people probably knew that before I didn't. I'm a bit disappointed, I have to say. It's not that the amount of AP in itself is not nice. It is nice, and I do like the idea of encouraging us to do higher level Mythic Plus as opposed to just doing lots of more manageable ones. But I'm not sure it really does it. I mean, I suppose we'll have to see what the behaviour of lots of other people are. But the amount I got doesn't seem to compete with just running lots of Mythic Plus dungeons. In fact, on Tuesday, we blasted through with a group all of the Mythic dungeons, like the base level Mythic dungeons. And I got double the amount of artifact power from just doing that. And that didn't even include the Mage Tower buff, because some beggar didn't tell me I had to do the... In fact, we actually asked, because other people in the group were getting tomes, and there's like me and one other person not getting tomes. We said, is there a quest we have to do? And they went, no, there isn't. Lying bastards. So we missed... But even then, I got double the amount of artifact power that I got for completing a plus 16 that week when I opened my cache on the Wednesday, the weekly cache. So it's like, I mean, you can do both, of course. I'm not saying it's interchangeable, but if you've got a limited amount of time, you think to yourself, so what should we do? Should we, if you have got a very limited amount of time, do we push as high as we can, or do we just do a load of low-level ones? Seems to me you just do a load of low-level ones. I don't know. Especially with the Mage Tower up. But I mean, as I say, I didn't even benefit from the Mage Tower, so it's not even all about that. The Broken Shore building time. This is something, what they've said here, it sounds like a bit of a throwaway comment, not really worth discussion, but I think it is. It says, we will be monitoring region-wide contributions to all buildings pretty closely. If down the line we need to turn some knobs on our end, it's something we should be able to do. Again, the topic is on our mind and we're watching to see how things play out. Now that seems perfectly reasonable on first glance, but my issue with it is the whole point of these buildings where you turn in resources, and it's almost like a democracy, isn't it? The buildings that most people want are going to be the ones that spring up first. It's not quite true, of course, because we don't all have one vote, do we? The people who can farm more get more resources and therefore get a bigger say. But, you know, that aside, it's sort of a democracy. But it's not really, is it? It's like they're giving us the illusion of choosing. If they're willing to chew knobs to make it fit what they expect to happen, all we're doing is being given the illusion of choice, which is appalling, I think. So on the one hand, it sounds reasonable, because otherwise people will sort of min-max or whatever and throw it out of whack. But at the same time, that would mean we actually get to choose what's going on. So, to my mind, if they're going to do that, dispel the illusion of choice completely and just have the buildings pop up at set times that have got nothing to do with us. Of course, we know the reason why they want it, because they want us on the Broken Shore farming these pointless resources just to participate in this charade. There you go, that's my little rant over. Now, the other thing is about challenge mode, challenge quest, the artifact quest. Because the Mage Tower has come out, it's been and gone in both North American servers and European servers. So people have had their crack at the challenge quest. Now, there's been, you know, completely opposing views on this. I've had the usual things. I mean, I completed it with minimal time, really. I mean, it was absolutely mad. I only had a short amount of time, and I hadn't farmed the nether shards for it either to do many tries. Fortunately, I got it. But yeah, there's been people out there, and there's been people who, on the one hand, I've had people comment on my videos about it saying, oh, it's a complete joke. It's a complete joke. It's not a complete joke at all. It's doable. And I mean, I've only had to go at one of them. I've done it on one spec for one class. It's probably the only one with which I have both the skill and gear to do it, because you do need both of those. I would not like to do it on, say, my more poorly geared. If I was someone to give me a Retribution Paladin that was 50 item levels below, I wouldn't even bother with it. I wouldn't even bother. Same time, you don't need as much gear as I did, because the DPS I didn't even pay attention. You know, I didn't feel at all pressured with there were very few DPS checks in the encounter anyway. It was mostly a control encounter, but which is good. But yeah, and then there's people on the other end who complain that it is absolutely impossible. And what you have to bear in mind is, if it's impossible because your gear isn't up to that level yet, well, it's fine. The Mage Tower will keep getting put up. And I can understand, as more people, I suppose, get it, the Mage Tower may appear less frequently. But that's not all the Mage Tower is good for. You know, people are still going to put resources into the Mage Tower. But it may come up less and less frequency, I suppose. Maybe. I don't know. But again, that might be one of those tuning knobs that Blizzard play with. Who knows? And it is annoying that we only get these short windows. If it doesn't happen to coincide with when you've got a lot of free time, as it did in my case, then that's annoying too. But you just have to gear up and do it. But if the problem is one of not being able to do it and it's nothing to do with gear, then you just have to look at it as like a raid encounter or something like that, and you have to come up with a strategy for the next time it opens. That's what I was prepared to do. I was prepared to because what I was doing when I was doing it is I did a few pulls, and then I would watch my videos again to go through it, because I couldn't afford spending nether shards willy-nilly, because I had virtually none. Because I'd done so little on the PTR, I hadn't done this, you know, whenever I'd been on the PTR, the building was never up, so I never got to try it on the PTR. I didn't actually know it cost you nether shards. I just thought you'd just keep doing it. I didn't realise you only got one free one a day, and then that was it, nether shards after that. So that was, and I hadn't farmed any the previous weekend, really. So I only had about 16 goes to do it in. So it was very clear that I couldn't waste it. So I was having to review my own videos and try and work things out, work out what I was going to do. But what Blizzard have said about it is, I get that these appearances are the new hotness and everyone is after them, which causes frustration. However, people are not going to enjoy the fact that I immediately changed my back. I may have to change it to the Shattered Ashbringer, because there are some achievements, but like when I do dungeons, I'll probably have to have it. There are some achievements where you have to actually have it equipped, that skin, to get them. Admittedly, it gives you access to the other skins, which I don't like. But for the sake of completeness, I'm going to have to do them, aren't I? So yeah, I am probably going to have to use it. I don't really like it. But it says, however, it's worth noting that the solo challenges to unlock the new appearances are intended to be just that, a challenge. They said this before, to be fair. We don't expect the majority of players to obtain them within the first cycle of the Mage Tower being constructed. Our aim for these challenges is for them to be comparable to that of the Green Fire questline for Warlocks in Mists and Pandaria. In that case, only a few Warlocks were able to defeat blah 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 immediately, but more and more were able to overcome the challenge as the expansion progressed. As your gear gets better, I suppose it's one of those things, your gear gets better, what little DPS checks get easier, and therefore you get less pressure. You're less likely to make mistakes, because there are other aspects to it. It's not just DPS. You can't just bludgeon your way through it, or at least I'm pretty sure. I haven't done all of them. I can't really say that. I really don't think that's the case in any of them. But as your gear gets better, it gets more forgiving, and then you feel less pressure. So you, as I say, I'm repeating myself now, less likely to make mistakes. That's my take on it. As we progress through the course of Legion, your character will become stronger through artifact progression, gear upgrades, etc., which will naturally ease the difficulty of these challenges. Likewise, as more and more players complete these challenges, more community-generated content will appear, giving advice for those who are struggling. Mine's already up, just saying. Ultimately, each artifact appearance has a different source. Some reflect dedication to a particular gameplay style, such as raiding or PvP. Others for reaching milestones like completing the 7.0 Order Hall line. In the case of these challenge appearances, they are meant to show that you've truly mastered the nuances of your spec. So I'm not even going to try the Holy and Prot one, is basically what it's saying to me. But yeah, what I will be interested to note is with the Mage Tower, because the Mage Tower was completed in roughly the same amount of time on both. It was like a day later on the EU servers, but that's because the patch went live a day later. So it's roughly the same amount of time. I think a lot of people are just naturally assuming that everyone wanted to get the Mage Tower done, and that's why it got first. I wonder, and I'm not sure about this, maybe it was just that the Mage Tower got an initial boost from all the really keen players that put in their war supplies really quickly and easy, and so that everyone else, or a large number of other people, just followed suit with, which is, because like if I was a casual player and I didn't know anything about any of them, I might just look at those 3 bars and go, well, all the buildings are good. That one's in the lead, so I might as well put mine onto that one, and then it'll get there. It's more likely to get there first and more quickly, more importantly, so we can get the bonuses. So maybe there was an element of that. So it'd be interesting to see if over this weekend the Mage Tower, again, because the other 2 will have had a bit of a head start over the Mage Tower now that it's reset, and to see if the Mage Tower overtakes it, because that would be an indicator that no, actually people know what the Mage Tower's for and they really want that one, until everyone has got their challenge mode thing, or maybe they just like the general bonuses from it anyway. So I'd be interested in that one. But just to finish off, just to talk about the challenge mode, I keep calling it challenge mode, I shouldn't do that, the challenge quest is, and yeah, I've had comments from both sides. I've had comments from people saying, oh, it's a bit of a joke. I'm actually going to say it's not. Anyone who completed it within a few tries, like 1 or 2 tries, you knew what to do before you went in there. There is no way you do it in 1 or 2 tries having known nothing about it. How could you? It's impossible. So you'll have done it on PTR or watched videos several times of people who have done it on PTR. And then on the other end of the scale, talking about it being impossible, it's clearly not impossible. It might be in your gear, as I say. If you're in like 870, I don't know what the minimum amount of gear you need to do it is. I know it can be done in like 890-ish. Maybe it could be done a bit less. I don't know. But let's say you're in 875 or something. You're probably not going to be able to do it. I'd be very doubtful. Certainly the one I did, and as for the spec I did. So you just have to get more gear with that as well. So I've seen both sides of it. What I would say, my personal opinion, it was a challenge. It was a challenge. It took me multiple goes. I haven't counted up exactly. I know it didn't take me more than 16 because that's all the nether shards I had. Oh, actually, no. I potentially had a couple of free goes because I did it on 2 separate nights. I potentially had up to 18. Okay? But I will tell you something, it was difficult. The last part was actually quite easy. As soon as I'd got past a certain point in the fight, I knew I was going to do it. I knew I had it under control. But again, that was because of my gear. I knew I'd make the DPS. You know, there's only 2 mechanics left towards the end, and one of them was a DPS check. And I felt pretty good about it, I have to say. So I'm going to leave you with that feeling. So tell me if you like that I must be a bit rubbish if I felt good, that it was some sort of achievement for doing it. But it was an achievement. I felt it was an achievement as someone who raids Mythic and plays my spec almost exclusively. And certainly the only one I play seriously exclusively. I felt it was a challenge, and I'm very pleased to have completed it. And yes, I felt pretty good. So thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later. You got the touch.